Hello and welcome to today's class. Today's class will be on aged population in India. We have talked about it in brief in our previous class. Today we shall talk about this topic in detail. Now the percentage of the elderly in India has been increasing at an increasing rate in the recent years, and the trend is likely to continue in the coming decades. If we look into this table, we can see that the trend has been that of an increase, gradual maybe, but there has always been an increase in the percentage of the elderly population to the total population. In 1961, it was 5.58. It continued to increase in 1971 and continued further to reach this 8% in 2011. Now the share of the population over the age of 60 is projected to increase from 8%. It reached 8% in 2011, continued to be 8% in 2015, and it will reach 19% in 2050. And by the end of the century, 21st century, the elderly will constitute nearly 34% of the total population in the country. Now, if we look into this graph, this line graph represents the size and the growth of the elderly population in India between 1950 and 2100. So you see this red line represents the annual growth rate of the general populations, means the overall population. And this yellow line represents the annual growth rate of 60 plus population, but only 60 plus population. So this represents this on the y-axis. You can see here on to the left, growth rates of 60 plus population, and this is 60 plus population in numbers. This is the rate. So you see it was less than 0.5 in 1960, and it is bound to cross 3. It is bound to be near around 3 by the middle of this century. In fact, the growth rate among the 60 plus population or of the 60 plus population will be much higher than that of the general population. This red line represents general population. You can see here in 1960, the growth rate of the general population was around close to 3. And then in around the same year or the decade, the growth rate of the 60 plus population was less than 0.5. But this went on to increase gradually. And it is projected that by the middle of this century, it will intersect that of the annual growth rate of the general population, and not just intersect, it will supersede that rate. The rate of growth, it will supersede the rate of growth experienced by the general population. General population by the turn of the middle of the century, it will in fact experience decline, whereas that of the 60 plus population will experience an increment. They will continue to grow, they will continue to increase. You can see here, I have already shown you this table before. There has been an increment in the percentage of total population in every decade. So undoubtedly, therefore, relatively young India today India is very young. But it will turn into a rapidly aging society in the coming decades. Now, a distinguishing feature of aging in India, as was also told in the previous class, is that of the interstate disparity. Now, interstate disparity meaning there is a lot of inequality in terms of the aging experience. Now, this disparity between the states is both in terms of levels as well as the growth of the elderly population, depending upon the pace of demographic transition that these states are going through. Even in India may be in generally passing through the late second stage of demographic transition, but within India, different states are again experiencing different phases of demographic transition depending upon their socio-economic development. Like Kerala is at a very advanced stage of demographic transition, and on the other hand, you have states like Bimaru states Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, called Rajasthan, these are called Bimaru states, 6 states, backward states. There, the socioeconomic development is on the lower side. So, what is the characteristics of this differential experience of aging across states? One of the characteristics, of course, it was mentioned that India has a significant inter-regional and interstate demographic diversity based on the stage of demographic transition, variation in the onset and the pace of the fertility transition. So different state experiences are experiencing different kind of onset and pace of fertility transition. Consequently, they are also, their experience of the aging is also varied and not homogeneous. Consequently, there are considerable variation in the age structure of the population, including the aging experience. For instance, the southern states are the front runners. Southern states are known to have a very socioeconomic, advanced socioeconomic development in population, are the front runners. So they are the front runners in population aging, along with Himachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, and Punjab. These are the more prosperous states in India. Now, on the other hand, are the central and the northern states such as Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Uttarakhand, having lower proportion of aged population. Now, this is only reflective of their demographic transition theory. You can draw an analogy between developed countries and developing countries. Developed countries have more of aged population by virtue of their demographic transition, and developing countries have lesser number of aged population by virtue of demographic transition that they are in. Similarly, you bring in that analogy, you draw that analogy, bring that example here. There are developed states, developing states, so their experience of aging is also different. You can see here this bar graph reflects the disparity between states, interstate disparity. Assam, it can be said the aging can be as low as 6.5 in Assam and as high as 12.3 in Kerala. So look at this: Kerala, Tamil Nadu. These are the southern states, northern states like Himachal Pradesh, Punjab. So they are the more prosperous states. They are experiencing higher percentage of aged population, and your mostly backward states. Delhi is not a backward, but Delhi is there by virtue of it being experiencing a lot of in-migration. So in Delhi experiences a lot of in-migration, so consequently it affects their overall age structure also. So Delhi is not a backward state, but still you will find the percentage of aged population to be less, because in reality it is experiencing a lot of in-migration, and who migrates? The young people migrates to these cities. So consequently, it affects the average of Delhi. It affects the age structure of Delhi. So here, the 6.5, it's showing the proportion of the aged population in India, not by virtue of it being the backward state or union territory, but because it experiences influx of younger people. So consequently, Delhi will have more number of younger population. Now, based on the 2011 census, the overall age dependency ratio shows that there are over 14 elderly per 100 working age population, with significant variations across states. Of course, the variation across states will always be there because different states are in different phase of socioeconomic development. Here, particularly economic development, we are referring to. So, if there are 100 working people, the figure for the old people will be 14. So, we talked about that aging has a consequences, economic consequences. This is an economic consequences. As India will grow older, this dependency, today it is 14. Then every 100 working population or the workforce, there are 14 elderly people. So as India continues to experience aging, this dependency ratio will also increase. Higher old age dependency reflects higher level of demand for care from immediate family, not only from immediate family but also from healthcare. There will be a demand for healthcare to cater to the needs of the old age people. Uh, uh, so according to the data from the sample registration system, life expectancy at the age of 60 has increased from 14 years in 1970 to 75. This is another characteristic of aging in India. So life expectancy at the age of 60 has increased from 14 years in 1970 to 75 to 18 years in 2010 to 2014, with women living about 2 years longer than men. So from here, we need to figure out two things. One is, what does life expectancy at the age of 60 mean? You must have also heard about life expectancy at birth. When we say life expectancy at birth, it means, say, suppose if I say life expectancy at birth is 69, it means that a person is going to survive for 69. Now, when I say life expectancy at the age of 60, it means after attaining the age of 60, how long he or she is expected to survive. So if it is 14 years, it means 60, another 14, so 74 years. So the life expectancy at the age of 60, it was 14 years in 1970 to 75. It increased to 18 years in 2010 to 14. So 74 to 78. It has increased from 74 in 1970 to 75 to 78 in 2010 and 14. And another aspect is that women live longer by about 2 years than men in this life expectancy. So women will have much more longer life expectancy. Now women continue to enjoy a higher life expectancy than men because they stand to benefit more from the advances in the healthcare and the living conditions that the country has made, besides making fewer lifestyle choices that are bad for health, like smoking, or various form of intoxications, chewing of gutka, tobacco, this etc. These incidences of such life choices are much lower among women than men in India. That's why these are some of the contributing factor for the longer life expectancy of women than men. Now, all the Indian states show a life expectancy at 60 of over 15 years currently, except males in Chhattisgarh. Thus, life expectancy improvement has been a substantial in most states of India. Currently, all the states have higher life expectancy at old age for women than for men. So that's all about the aging phenomena in India. If you have any doubts and queries, please do text. Thank you.